Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Bradley Sipe, founder and president of Current Commerce. How are you doing, Bradley?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for coming on. Let's
Yeah.
dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey and what made you start your own business, and give us an overview of what your role looks like today inside Current Commerce.
Yeah, sure. I'll try to be brief. Besides 4 kids and a puppy, as I like to say, my claim to fame is probably as co-founder of a company called Quiver. Back in 2013, we were a top 30 Amazon seller at our peak and sold that business to a very large strategic Advantage Sales and Marketing, which is the largest CPG retail broker here in the US. But prior to that, had a traditional kind of tech, telecom, engineering kind of career in big corporate, but had always been an entrepreneur. I think I invented the side gig before it was called a side gig, and lots of failures. Dabbled in almost anything that had a pulse of revenue, and that was like getting a couple MBAs. But some pretty expensive MBAs, I might add. But yeah, Quiver was a dream come true. That was a rocket ship, just kind of right place, right time, primarily focused in the health, beauty, and personal care space, which was huge on Amazon, still is huge today. And sort of have parlayed that story, that success into my current agency called Current Commerce. And Current Commerce is different than Quiver in that we wanted to be more customary to our clients. At Quiver, clients had to fit into our model of reselling on Amazon, where with Current Commerce, we kind of want to fit into the clients. And we focus on multi-channel and social commerce. So multi-channel is anything US domestic, Amazon, Walmart, Target, you name it, but also global. The barrier to entry to be on global marketplaces has really come down from a tech and cost perspective. So we're pretty active on multi-channel globally. And then social commerce is huge, primarily TikTok Shop. So we're a TSP, a CAP, a TAP on TikTok. That has been, it reminds me a lot of Quiver as far as growth and excitement. Still a lot to learn, very greenfield, but we are having a blast on TikTok Shop. And that's where we're spending a lot of time these days.
No, definitely. The landscape is definitely changing, even from like what you said before, when you had Quiver to now, it's like changing all the time with, AI and also like these TikTok Shop. I bet that's obviously blown up over recent years as well. So like, what are the main things you've seen that's changed in that landscape from when you sold Quiver to where it is now, and how is that benefiting you in your new entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, there's similarities and differences, right? Like anyone who's been doing Amazon for a while, let's call it 15 to 20 years, back then you could pretty much launch anything on Amazon. It wasn't terribly expensive to promote. And so that's where kind of this private label industry just exploded. And before you knew it, China kind of came in. No disrespect to them, they saw what we were doing with their products and said, well, we can do that too. And so that the opportunity on Amazon back then was huge, still huge today, but it's more pay to play, right? You got to spend a lot of money to keep your position, grow your position, or create a position. A TikTok Shop represents a similar opportunity, but a lot of different tactics, right? So you can come on a TikTok Shop today, frankly, no one. And as long as you're in the right category and you know the tactics, you can make some noise and then parlay that into Amazon, into your website, into other marketplaces. So from like a launch perspective, it's amazing. But what's interesting is a lot of the big brands haven't caught on yet. So, there's opportunity to disrupt what you may think are the incumbents, but then for those incumbents who frankly aren't incumbents right now because they're not even on the channel or on the marketplace, they can come in and make some noise as well, which they rightfully should, right? They have the resources.
Mm.
But, again, the big opportunity on TikTok also represents challenges because the tactics are totally different. It's an entertainment platform first and foremost. It's video driven and it's promotion driven, not really ads driven. I don't like to call it ads. I like to call it promotions. But we feel like we've, through a lot of trial and error, I got to admit, we have kind of figured out this playbook and, you don't call every play. Whether you're on offense or defense, but definitely there's enough plays to choose from where you're kind of guaranteed a first down. That's an American football analogy. But TikTok Shop, like I said, awesome opportunity, totally different tactics. But at the end of the day, very economical, a ton of fun. And whether it's brand awareness or bottom of the funnel conversion, take your pick. You can get all that.
So yeah, speed and learning the new tactics, obviously, of new platforms, obviously diversifies your skills that you need to obviously to be successful in this industry. So how do you serve clients? Do you like look at like promote and get their pages going off, or do you sort of like, explain that to me a little bit more?
Yeah, so we primarily act as a shop manager. So very similar to, say, traditional digital agencies or e-commerce agencies that might manage an Amazon account on your behalf or your website, Shopify, something like that. TikTok is similar, right? Right? We would set up the shop with me, manage the shop, all the different things that go on within that shop. And when you break down what goes into a successful TikTok shop strategy, you have creators, you have lives, and you have promotion. On the creator side, there's a couple of different ways to go about it. There's sort of the grassroots direct way, and then there's the option to kind of go through caps, which are kind of like talent agencies, very similar to what you might think of as like influencer agencies and things like that. But both are needed in many cases, and both are different in how you go about it and what's required. But what's great about creators in general on TikTok Shop is most of them are commission based, and you
Mm,
don't need the big creators per se. You can just aggregate a lot of the smaller creators, which tends to work better. They're hungrier. They have high engagement, high post rates. And the way I explain the creator ecosystem to brands is like, this is your sales force, right?
mm,
So what do you do with a good sales force? You try to get the best talent, you train them, give them good commission, you bonus them, give them more stuff to sell, you train them again. So there's a lot of
mhm,
nurturing that goes on. So that's kind of one pillar. Second pillar is live. You got to go live, whether it's 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, 5 hours a day. If you can do it, you should do it. The algorithm loves it. The clients love it. And if you can combine going live with entertainment, well, kudos to you. I mean, that's like the 1-2 punch. Be entertained, and then if they see something that they like, they have a high probability of converting. It's very
mm,
spontaneous. And then promotions, there's a million things to do there. But promotions typically are, I'm going to boost a really cool video. I'm going to promote an upcoming live. I'm going to offer a discount. I'm going to create an incentive for my creators. I'm going to create contests. I'm going to do flash sales, all those types of things. And so when you have all those options, it's great for testing. And then you can kind of see what works, double down on that, and then, test the next thing. And what's interesting about TikTok Shop from our perspective is we can manage that whole thing, but there are very niche services that happen that we use partners for. And
okay.
it's really hard to figure out which partners are good at what. But again,
Mm.
that's something we're responsible for and we put a lot of time and energy.
It sounds like, it's much more multifaceted. Like there's a lot more things you have to be on top of. Do you know what I mean? A lot more ways to infiltrate, and get good results from it, as opposed to Amazon or any other sort of social media selling type of things. It's definitely, it's like upgraded in a way. Like you have to also upgrade your skill set and like how you do it, as opposed to how have you found that transition going from Amazon stores to TikTok stores and having to learn all this new set of sort of strategies?
Yeah. At first it was difficult. It was kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, how does this work? And how does that work? I mean, TikTok, the back end of TikTok is, complicated, not that it's not quality or reliable or whatever it is. It's just, there's a lot of moving parts in the back end, but transition wise, it was just a lot of fun, learning new things, really seeing success, like seeing that first client that like just took off because
Mhm.
and frankly, being able to forecast that, right? Like if we do this, we're going to see that. I mean, that was pretty amazing. Um, and I just love it from an entrepreneurial perspective. Not only the learning and the creativity that goes into it, but the cost structure. I mean, if you want, you can just do everything commission based. Creators can be
Mm,
commissioned. Your lives can be commissioned. You know, all the different partners in the ecosystem. Sort of, if given the right value proposition or the right product, are willing to kind of do commission only. So you can support the whole channel through your sales revenue. As
mm,
long as you have margins to play with, and the margins aren't bad, they're better than Amazon. You can just simply use your margins or margin contribution to fuel it. It doesn't hurt to have some money up front, right? Like you can sort of create the hockey, stick if you want by paying a cap to go get you 500 videos in 30 days, right? And then paying a booster to just boost a video across the, you know, larger world as opposed to just stuck in the TikTok world. So there's all these ways that if you have resources and you have budget and you have a little gumption, you can test even faster, you can fail faster, and you can see success faster. But
Mm,
yeah, I mean, it's super creative. The entertainment aspect is wild.
mm,
And every day I see a new brand or a new product that's flying off the shelves, and I can dive into that data. I can dive into that strategy and kind of understand how they did it, which is really, really cool. So TikTok kind of makes a lot of data available, which
mm.
for a guy like me is huge. And yeah, we're having fun. We're just getting started too, which is great.
No, it sounds like it's, a lot more flexible for brands to be able to start up and to obviously run the actual business as well. And also with the data, with having access to data like that, it's just learning, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? The more data you can get, the more you can then predict why that happened and why that didn't happen, and ultimately get better as an agency yourself, as well as being able to predict it for clients as well.
Yeah, well, and you can see what it does on other platforms. I mean, there's definitely a halo effect, and you're starting to
Mhm.
see tools pop up or tactics and techniques to do attribution. It's not perfect, but if I do a live on a TikTok or I have a video go viral on TikTok, either organically or through promotion, I'll see a lift on Amazon. You'll see a lift on the website. And
Mhm.
so when you look at a dollar spent on Amazon or some other marketplace or on paid media, compare that dollar to say a dollar spent, whether it's in time, commission, or a hard dollar on TikTok, there's kind of no comparison. And so people looking for incremental growth again, I would strongly encourage them to consider TikTok. There really is not a product category that's not being promoted on TikTok today. I mean, just the other day, I was talking to a hard goods company that does like air conditioning and heaters and things like that. I go to look, and people are buying a bunch of space heaters and air conditioners on TikTok. It's amazing. Fridges,
Mm.
they make fridges too, little wine and beverage fridges. Those are selling. It's insane. And it's not just young people. We have brand after
Mm.
brand after brand where the AOB or the average cart size of purchase is $100 or more. And so when you have 180 million active users here in the US, I'm not sure about Europe, but I know it's huge there too.
Mm.
It can't all be young people spending 30 or 40 bucks.
No, so like if you have a brand, and then it's almost like a whole nother avenue for you to make money as well. Do you mean, so if you've got Amazon account, like an Amazon business type of thing, and then you also have a TikTok one, and they kind of, if the TikTok one, like you say, goes viral or anything like that, then you can see a surge also on the Amazon one. So they kind of serve each other. So it's like perfect for, businesses that are obviously using e-commerce, because they've all just gained a whole nother revenue channel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and think about how we learn. I mean, you can go on Amazon or other marketplaces and, you can see pictures and see videos, and that's kind of like standard 101 strategy on Amazon. Like you got to have videos. But you're also not necessarily always looking at videos. Whereas TikTok,
Mm.
that's all it is, right? I mean, it's just videos. And the algorithm will actually pick up on like what part of a video did you like, right? And then it will try to feed you more of those videos. It could be a color, it could be an action, it could be a topic, whatever it is. It's all videos. And I don't know about you, but whenever I need to fix something around my house, whenever I need to learn about something, I'm pretty much going to YouTube
Mhm.
to learn about that. If you do any search on Google these days, you're going to see 3 YouTube videos pop up organically right under the
Mm.
fold. I mean, it's video, 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 video. And so, I think whether people are going to TikTok to search and learn or shop doesn't really matter. They're going to TikTok to watch video, period. And then from there, it'll be really interesting to see what the data starts to tell us about what do they do once they're there, right?
Mm.
And heck, if the way they want to be introduced to your brand or the way they want to be engaged with your brand is video, which is probably the case, and then they go to Amazon to make a purchase, great.
Yeah.
Who cares? I paid commission
Mm.
only for that video. I didn't put a $50,000 a month in ads on TikTok to get that
Mm.
click for that conversion with Amazon. So pretty cool stuff.
Just getting the traffic there, as long as it's feeding one or the other. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, there's obviously it's commission based there. So if they buy through there, then you're only paying a commission. And if they, it's actually probably better if they then go to Amazon, 'cause then you don't have to pay the commission. Cool strategy as well. Like, do you know what I mean? Especially for people who don't know and not into this as deep as you. Some of my listeners and things like that, I feel like they probably don't even, this is a good insight to them to actually see how, as a society and the world, how they're interacting with these different social media brands and ways of purchasing. Do you know what I mean? Because it is changing rapidly. Like, even with, like, this is one total avenue of purchasing through TikTok, and also through, people are purchasing things through like ChatGPT, going and buying their things for them. And it's just crazy to think about how it's all changed. It's changed. Our buying habits are changing like dramatically, and they probably will continue to change over the next every year, I would say.
Yeah, well, and TikTok's doing a great job. If you never bought anything on TikTok Shop, I mean, just try to add something to your cart. I mean, it's super intuitive. It's 1, 2 clicks max. They have
Mhm.
TikTok fulfillment. You can fulfill out of Amazon. You got a 3PL. Well, that's 3 to 5 business days, maybe it's went off overnight. But it's the same gratification, right? It's simple purchasing process, if you will, and you're going to get your product in 1 to 2 days. And from a brand perspective, it's cheaper, right, to
Mm.
sell on TikTok than it is on Amazon, just based on their commissions. So, and I got to tell you, like TikTok does a pretty good job. If you want to just, spray and pray on ads, I mean, you can do that. And G&B Max on TikTok does a really good job kind of setting that up for you if you don't know what you're doing, right? So it's not just going to go spend on some crazy ass keyword that's not going to convert for you. It will actually, it wants the conversion, right? It's built to convert. So it's not built to just spend your money the way that other platforms are. So they're doing a lot of things to get brands on there, all types of credits, all types of incentives. They'll discount your product out of nowhere and pay for it, which was really, really cool. I've seen some nutty discounts offered out of the blue. So they mean business. They're not messing around.
Mm.
They really do want to capture market share. I definitely think it's the next wave.
So, what are the biggest trends that you're seeing inside the market?
Definitely cross-border sales, at least here in the U.S. and definitely U.S. To Latin America, just geographically, and U.S. to Europe. I always talk about kind of the big three down south and the big three across the pond. Down south, it's Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia. Argentina is coming in there, and then across the pond, it's UK, France, Germany, right? And so we're seeing just a lot of interest in sort of multi-channel, global multi-channel. It's become a lot more accessible, mainly because of tech. If you can get your content all into one place, call it a pin, call it a dam, whatever you want. It's pretty easy to templatize that content and then push or propagate listings onto other marketplaces. The next hurdle is premium. So, if you are kind of tiptoeing into it, you want to crawl, walk, run, okay to charge for shipping. It's okay to maybe break even on shipping just to get some data. Amazon's a great example. If you have a Amazon US account, you can flip on all the countries I just mentioned pretty easily. And then your product should be available to those viewers in those countries. Amazon may or may not fulfill it on their own. They may or may not turn it on their own. Some brands are in those countries, they don't even know it. And they're not looking at the data to decide, do I invest in those countries? But if you can put your inventory kind of like a forward inventory position in country, a bonded warehouse or a free trade zone, that's where you can save some dollars on shipping. And then from there, then you start to look at the data and you decide, okay, do I need inventory now in country? Is there someone else you might want to take this inventory on my behalf as a reseller or distributor? But if you kind of tapped out your channels here, that's kind of what you need to do. And there's a huge appetite, right? Like there's huge appetite for American brands in those countries. There's a huge appetite here for European brands in our country, right?
Mm.
So I think Temu and some of those other low cost direct from China marketplaces kind of demonstrated that like that can be done. Uh, there's headwinds with those marketplaces because of the tariffs and things like that here in the US. So that's an opportunity now, right? That's an opportunity for brands to kind of fill that gap or take a page out of that playbook. But definitely multi-channel, definitely cross-border sales. That's massive. And then, I would add just this live concept on TikTok is pretty huge too, because if you're going to set up live for TikTok, you might as well leverage that sort of apparatus for other channels, right? Facebook Live, you go live on Amazon. So you can go do a commercial around here for really, really cheap, right? There's over the
Mm.
top or OTT ads through programmatic and DSP. You can, just like this podcast, right? You can go live, you can record it, you can chop it up, and then you can put that out on YouTube and other places. So, I think that's also another trend that we're picking up on and really thinking hard about doubling down on our ability to go live on behalf of our clients. And then what do we do with that content?
Definitely going live is such a good way, and obviously video content, because you can make so much content from that. Chopping it up and you can make 10 to 20 as many pieces as you want from it, and it'll give your brand, like, give the awareness on, and like social proof so much more, because your content stretches so much further as well. So it's like, it's worth so much more, I would say.
Yeah, 100%.
So Brad, what is working well, and where do you still feel slight friction in current commerce?
I think what's working well for us is we've got a really strong network of kind of referral partners. So, I think created, a lot of awareness around, who we are, what we do, and how we work. We're super honest and transparent and selective, like we won't take on clients just because they want to pay us. Like we got to actually believe that we can move the needle for them. There's nothing worse than like, churning and, 3 months of business and then it's done. Like, I don't like that. I really want to be super intimate with our clients, have a very, very long-term relationship. Very similar to what we had at Quiver. We never really lost clients there. So I think just the approach that we're taking, which is doing our homework, being honest, being available, being accountable, is really serving us well in that sort of people to people part of the business, client acquisition or qualification and acquisition. I think what the challenges are definitely um, just sort of on the education that's going on, right? Like there's a lot of education that we continue to have to do, whether it's best practices on an Amazon marketplace or other marketplaces, multi-channel or TikTok shop, especially. A lot of that stuff is new. You have a lot of clients that maybe dabbled in it, had a bad experience, and then, are sort of still curious, suspicious. You have a lot of clients that they've done social media, maybe some success, maybe hard to measure. They think of it as social media, not necessarily social commerce. They're not looking at the big picture as far as like what this means to other channels. Like retailers, as an example, they love it. They want to see you on social media. They want to see you on TikTok. They want to see you everywhere. And
Mm,
obviously, that's not practical. You can't just spend endlessly to be everywhere. But if you can be on Amazon, have a strong website, have a strong TikTok presence, like I call it the trifecta, retailers love that. And so there can be this pull through in retail that they get really excited about. But education, just got to get people up to speed, trying to differentiate ourselves. I think there's always going to be this part of the agency service world, regardless of
mm,
what you're doing, where people are over promising and under delivering. And so that's why we are pretty flexible in how we our commercial terms. We don't lock people in the long-term contracts. We typically are month to month. We love incentives. We do a lot of
mm,
commission only deals because we believe in the brand. And heck, we resell in some cases. I mean, we have all types of arrangements. That it's complicated for us in the back end, but it helps us on the front end because the clients know that we're incentivized, that we've got skin in the game. And I think
mm.
that's a big difference for us. But sometimes clients don't like that either. They're like, I just want to pay you. And it's like, okay, if you want to pay us, that's fine. But, it's not.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like when educating clients that have had bad experiences as well, like tech moves on so much that I feel like, we're always educating people on the new, if you're at the frontier of it, you're always going to be educating clients on new ways. Cause obviously once they get through to, using TikTok as social commerce as opposed to e-commerce, as opposed to social media, I'm sure there'll be like another trend that comes along and then you're always kind of educating them. And also having skin in the game, like you said, offering commission based, it must like it shows how much you how much you like love your brand and how much you think it will work. Do you know what I mean? So it shows them like if he's that confident that he will take nothing for until he make full commission based, then that would say to me like, oh well, they're definitely into their brand and they're definitely confident that they're going to be able to give me what they've actually sold to me, as opposed to some other people will be more like skeptical of that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's kind of like an incubator model in a sense, but yeah, I mean, sometimes it's a no brainer. Sometimes it's huge risk, but we eat what we kill. That's kind of what we say. And, at the end of the day, it's worked really well for me in the past and it's working well now. And I think next year is going to be huge. It's just going to be, to me, that TikTok's going to continue to disrupt and AI is going to continue to disrupt, whether it's, on the supply chain side of things or the paid media ad side of things and Amazon others. And, there's other things happening too all around us that we're paying attention to that, we'll see, right? Like LLMs, GEO search, different things like that. It's all, I think, screaming to clients to pay attention, right? Like you're going to this is like one of those moments where you're going to have to really look at what you've been doing the past 5, 6, 7 years and make some changes because that old playbook is not going to work anymore. And the new playbook might be scary and you got some anxiety and stuff like that, but like it doesn't have to be that way. It's just moving some money from like one bucket into another bucket. And be having the confidence and faith that that's going to be a better investment than what you're currently receiving today. And that takes new people, it takes new learnings, it takes new partners, new tech, all these things. But if you don't make that adoption now, you're going to be left in the dust.
Definitely. It's just like what happened when social media came about. Like, I'm sure when social media first came about, people wasn't thinking that, like when Facebook first came about to how TikTok shop is now is like worlds away. Do you know what I mean? But that should give people the faith that this is the same with like AI and how this is, it's going to be the same sort of like growth and the change. What you see AI now as probably in 15 to 20 years is going to be so far and away from how you perceive it now. Do you know what I mean? Like, so the way we shop, the way we do pretty much everything could be completely changed in the way that AI, the way that social media changed, but then AI is used doing that same sort of delivery model, I would say. And that should give them the faith that it worked that time. The people who were on the right side of it that time, profited immensely. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there was nothing apart from the internet before that. Do you know what I mean? But these two things now, this AI thing they should look back over, social media and the www.the net, like, do you know what I mean? And see this and be like, okay, well, now I have some past proof that this will probably go in the same way.
Yeah, and whether it's AI or it's just how we're all connected now, you know, at the end of the day, like the way the analogy I use, you got to build that muscle. So you got to build that social commerce muscle, or you need to build that AI muscle. And it's okay to be second to market, right? It's okay to have like, okay, well, what's that brand doing? Is that working? Oh, it's
Mm,
working. Okay, let's do it. That's fine.
mhm,
But if you're like fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, that's a problem. And your windows are closing, right? Meaning like, yeah, you could have ignored Amazon for 5 years if and came in and been okay. But like now, if you ignore TikTok for 5 years, you're screwed. But you might as well just like give up and wait for the next thing, right?
mm,
I think that's AI. It's all the stuff that's going on around. But AI is your friend in the TikTok world, that's for sure. I don't know if it's
mm,
your friend in the Amazon world. I've seen a lot of nightmares of using AI based ad platforms and just kind of run amok. I don't think that's the best way to go about, uh, at least for large budgets
mhm.
and more complicated grants. But I could be wrong. That's just what I see. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting time. And like I said, the education part is the hardest part right now. But I think people are, it's amazing the types of brands that you would never think would be interested in TikTok Shop are interested. And I think it's because they've learned those hard lessons in the past where, oh crap, we missed that one. We can't do that again.
Experiences. Because yeah, the person who's not in commerce, like who just uses social media, probably wouldn't think like big brands would be interested in it, but they're the smart ones that have learned from past experiences, I would say. So, Brad, last couple of questions. Where do you want to be in the next 12 to 18 months in terms of business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with where we're at. I mean, we're pretty small boutique. Like I said, we're pretty selective. I think we're on our way to kind of triple this next year. That doesn't mean we're going to be $1 billion company. It just means we're going to have a nice, solvent business that is resourced properly for our clients, built to scale, and having fun with what we're doing. And there might be a future version of Current Commerce where we have maybe some of our own software. I always hesitate to do that, especially with AI and some of the other things that are out there. And I've been burned by that in the past, but that the ecosystem around us is supporting us really, really well as far as like what we need. But there's a lot more flexibility, and I think software vendors and tech suppliers these days kind of take custom requirements from us and make those kind of standard features in the software because who doesn't want to build something that is based on client needs? And I think in that scenario, we're a client, we're a big consumer of software. But yeah, I mean, I think continue to add quality clients, continue to like inspect our deal flow and look for opportunities to invest. This whole TikTok thing, as an example, has kind of brought me back to the days of when I owned my own products or owned my own brands. There is that opportunity, but not do it in a way where we're just sort of working with a broker who's getting us a factory or maybe to a factory in China to bring something in. It's for me, it's more, looking at domestic manufacturing and partnering with those types of companies. Maybe you're a supplement manufacturer, maybe whatever you may make here in the US or in North America. Like I'm very interested in being very close to the source of those products because why not? Just have
Mhm.
more margin or more competitiveness to launch and grow. But again, we're living through our clients, and it's a blast. A lot of cool brands launching next year that we'll be working with. At the end of the day, we're just really lucky. I'm very grateful that we get to all the conversations we're able to have. And I don't think too many people are having the types of conversations we're having. Like, I don't think they're having them in a way where um, you know, we can kind of just be very candid and very frank about, like, you're not ready for this. You really need to like optimize what you already got. And then after you do that, come back or whatever it may be, right? You got the wrong branding, the wrong packaging, wrong product, like, boy, it'd be great if you guys have this type of assortment in your company. You guys, your brand recognition will carry that launch a very long ways, right? All types of things. So it's kind of like being a you know, product developer slash incubator, but at the end of the
Mm.
day, at our core, being a service agency, um, that sort of has this maybe informal fund to like go and invest with our clients to participate in the launch.
It positions you as a strategic partner as opposed to just a service based business as well. Do you know
I
what I
could
mean?
have
Like,
just
see
said
them.
that.
Yeah. Well, it just, it just positions you in that way that they see you and they perceive value. Well, the value is much greater to have a partner that can give you advice that's had years of experience in this industry as opposed to, yeah, we'll do this X, Y, and Z for you. Whereas, you're positioning yourself much more at a different like level for them. Yeah, as they're going to get so much more value out of that. I would anyway.
I hope so. I mean, I'm definitely like little more outspoken than I've ever been in my career, mainly because I hate watching people make mistakes. And if
Mm.
I get 1 out of 10 ideas, like if 1 out of 10 ideas is a good idea, I'll take it. I'll take those numbers. But it's just providing value across the board. There are definitely parts of our brains as people, myself and my team, that has nothing to do with our business as an offer,
Mhm.
but certainly can contribute to the success of a brand and other parts of their business that have nothing to do with us. And why not offer
Mhm.
that? Why not make that intro? Why not like maybe help them avoid? So, that sort of entrepreneurial karma, that business wisdom,
Mm.
if it is wisdom, we always offer. It's just the way you go.
People or brands wouldn't offer it, but I feel like you having that entrepreneurial like bug almost or part of the brain. I feel like with the experience that you've had, and even saying now where you're much more vocal with it now, but that's probably because of all the experience that you've gained. Where you're like, I actually have value to give people. Do you know what I mean? And I know that from my past experiences. So it's more valuable, and that what you're saying, or you think that what you're saying is going to be correct more times than not. So Brad, my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be and why?
AR? No. But, there's not too many things, I mean, I think everybody always wants to have more resources to do more things with. So time, right? Like everybody wants more time. But even if I could wave that type of magic wand, I don't know if I'd really take advantage of it because
Mm.
I think we're finding a really good balance between having a healthy business with a healthy culture and happy people and the demands of our clients or the demands of the market. Built, a pretty big agency in the past, and I've been through all types of endeavors and projects. And it's always good to kind of live in that anxiety zone, right? Where you're always best today, better tomorrow kind of mantra. But I think it's almost like getting caught up in the business rat race, in a sense, and keeping up with the business Joneses, of the world. I think that is a slippery slope when it comes to being successful and creating a good culture. But, I think it would just be, I'd wave the happiness wand, right? Like, I just think being happy or being passionate or being content or satisfied
Mm.
or, is just so important. And if you're not finding satisfaction in your work, you're not enjoying talking to your clients. Every little issue looks like it's some massive, bomb that's about to go off. If like that's how you feel when you wake up and that's how you
Mm.
feel when you come to work, like I want nothing to do with that. And I don't want my employees to have anything to do with that. And if a client's making us feel that way, well, guess what? We can fire clients. I'm sorry, clients, we can fire you. Just like you can fire us. And I think our clients like that too. Our clients want the same thing. They want to feel good when they talk to us. They want,
Mm.
to get value, not just professionally, but like maybe even personally.
Mm.
We're not therapists, but I love those commercials. I don't know if you see them in the UK, but there's these commercials here in the US where, um, like a husband or a wife or a daughter or a friend is like substituted in by some famous backup quarterback, the backup quarterback is like the backup husband or the backup account manager to come in and make it better, Yeah, I'd weigh the happiness one because I think, you produce better work. If you're miserable, you don't. Pretty
Mm.
simple.
But yeah, no, I like that answer. So I think a lot of people would like that answer too. I always get a different answer for that hypothetical question every time, and it's interesting to hear different entrepreneurs. But that's a definite it's a forward thinking way of answering it as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not just looking at the things that's going to change automatically. If I change this, this would happen. But actually, if you change that, then all the other things would probably take care of themselves. So yeah. But Brad, thank you so much for coming on and sharing insights into your company and the industry as well, because it's not every day that I speak to someone who's into TikTok commerce and e-commerce as much. But yeah, where can my viewers and listeners contact you if they were wanting your services and reach you? What website?
Yeah, I mean, pretty simple. I'm not super active on all the different social media, but we are, as a company, are Current Commerce. Currentcommerce.io is our website. If you do a search for us, you'll probably see some old podcasts that I don't want you to watch, but they're pretty funny. We've got some TikTok videos and things like that. But yeah, just our website, currentcommerce.io. You can always email me, Brad at currentcommerce.io. Pretty easy to get a hold of, very responsive. I'm like a same day kind of responder on things. And yeah, out and about. And, thank you for having us. And good luck with everything. And I'd love to talk more. TikTok, I think there's just a huge appetite for TikTok content right now. And there's a gap in sort of transparency. So I think we could spend a lot of time on that. And then, yeah, multi channel, cross border sales, Amazon stuff. And we're super transparent. It's all
Mhm.
green field. Why there shouldn't be a black box with any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I tell clients, hey, you should try to do this yourself. You don't need to pay me to do it. It's just some of you guys can do this. That's okay. I know that's going to come back to me one day.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully we can
definitely.
connect again soon. That'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So all my viewers, please like, comment, subscribe, send to a friend, especially if they're looking into e-commerce or social commerce, and hit up Brad for any of your, any of your needs for that type of thing. And until next week, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Brad.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon.